A weeb mode activate. If this video can get 300 likes, I don't know, I'll wear shoes on my hands for the next video. Cool. But since last video did hit its goal, I'm here to give you guys a sneak peek of what is to come for the Nim Nim rap career. I said I'd get started on the hottest Yu-Gi-Oh! Rap verse of all time, and to prove that I got started on it, here's a little bar for you guys here. I'm coming at all you trash whack YouTube wannabes, synthesizing rhymes like it's that wacky alchemy, perched on top my throne asking where the haters be. Your words have no effect, I'm playing Valor ×3. Bars, boy. How could you be so cold as the winter wind when it breeze? What's up, my Nimrods? It's Gage, coming back at you guys with another video today. I thank you guys for taking a few minutes out of your day to listen to me rabble about a children's card game. Truly am grateful. For anybody that normally follows my channel, you'll know I love to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh's rich history. And if you don't normally follow my channel, perhaps you're new, hey, how's it going? My name's Nim Nim. I am a Yu-Gi-Oh content creator here on this platform we call YouTube. I post high quality content, and you should definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. I heard scientifically it makes you 10% cooler when you are subscribed to Nim Nim. Also, I like what you did with your hair. Really suits you, but hey, oh, did you guys hear that? Sounds like a bell. That reminds me of the YouTube notification system. Whether you're a new or returning subscriber, be sure to hit that bell button because it updates you when I release that fresh, never frozen, subpar Yu-Gi-Oh content, so you can watch it right away and hopefully get that first comment in there. But no, seriously, if you guys know anything about me, you know I love talking about old Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether it's talking about overhyped cards that flopped, cards that somehow saw play when they're straight garbage, or talking about old combos of the past. I love talking about old Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just, the game has a really rich history that people don't appreciate, I think. And today I want to tackle the topic of consistency and really talk to you guys about what I believe might be the most consistent deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or was the most consistent deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're a new player looking to get some replays of your Neo-Spacians, given some low-tier decks the big baloney, you're really not thinking consistency in mind. But if you want to hop into competitive play, consistency is key. That's actually a saying for most life things, not just Yu-Gi-Oh! If your deck can consistently pull off the same dumb turn 1 combo over and over again, you will most likely find yourselves in the top tables of YCS's, provided you're a competent player. This is how we see decks like Zodiac at their full power, or decks like Spiral at their full power, consistently getting the top tables, is because they can consistently pull off the really powerful combo. For example, Zodiac, you only needed one card back when they were at full power, whether it be Barrage or just the Wrap here, which you had multiple ways of getting to these resources to pull off a really good combo, which would net you tons of free cards. It was crazy. Consistently ending with Daigusu Emerald plus Trident plus even just a couple draws was definitely not the fairest thing in the world. And you often see these things get hit from the ban list, which will often make a deck not as good. Consistency, again, is key, so if you can make a deck less consistent at what it does, you can make the deck not as good. But enough about the quick diction of what consistency is. What is the most consistent deck ever released in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably what you guys are wanting to know. Well, if you're not actually wanting to know, I'm going to tell you anyway. There was tons of decks I had to toss around to really pick the most consistent one. Ones that came to mind were Zodiac at their full power. Another happened to be Dragon Rollers at their full power, being the fact that they could easily pull off at least one Draco Sack if the player knew at all what they were doing. But I do think those decks pale in comparison to, I believe, the most consistent deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that deck is Pepe at their full power. Pepe, for the people that are uncultured, stands for Performapow Perform Mages. This was a deck that past Breakers of Shadows, which was released, I think, early 2016, was the most dominant deck in the game, hands down. People were genuinely frightened for the game when this was announced in the OCG, and it was a guaranteed tier 0 format when it came here in the TCG just because of the combos it could do. This deck was so deadly consistent, it could pull off a board of Cyber Dragon Infinity and Trap Tricks with Flasia turn 1 just about every single time you played it. It was a die roll format at its pinnacle. It was actually so bad that Konami had to bring back the emergency ban lists, although they didn't call it that, but they had to bring back an adjusted list to fix the format just because of how broken this deck was, and multiple cards on this adjusted list got hit from the deck. However, for that short time we did get to play the deck at its full power, I am prepared to say it was probably the most consistent deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! But why is that? Well, I'm going to take you guys over to Dueling Book to kind of show you guys an example deck list of what it was back then, and maybe explain some of the card choices and why exactly this deck was so deadly consistent. Let's take it over there, guys. Hey guys, what's going on? So what I have in front of me here is a 2016 Performage list. This is actually Fraser Smith's third place list from YCS Atlanta, Georgia, which was released pretty much just, held right pretty much after Breakers of Shadows were released. Obviously, there's a lot of cards on here that have that forbidden mark, even different limited marks of sorts. It was a very, very scary deck back then, and I'm just going to take you guys over some of the cards you might not know what they do, and why this deck was just so consistent in what it could do. So some cards you might not know what they do is a card like Performage Damage Juggler, or just all the Performages in general. Really, the package that you would play is the Damage Juggler, the Hat Tricker. You'd play one Mirror Conductor, as well as the Plush Fires and the one Trick Clown. This was pretty standard back then. Damage Juggler is a card where you can pitch it to stop any battle damage you would take, so it's kind of like a hand trap in that sense, but the real charm of this card was the fact that you could banish it from your graveyard to add a Performage from your deck to your hand. That was just really crazy in the fact that if it was sent to the graveyard in any means, whether you popped it with a card like Perform a Pendulum Sorcerer or any other reason really, you would get an immediate search for Plush Fire. Which Plush Fire is another card people might not know what to do since it wasn't around for even that long. Plush Fire, its pendulum effect isn't anything really too relevant, but its monster effect is where it's really good. When it's destroyed by a card effect or battle, you can special summon a Performage monster from your deck or your hand to the field. Now the thing is, you might think, well, it's going to be a pendulum scale, like most of your cards like Luster Pendulum or Wavering Eyes can pop it from the pendulum scale. Well, the ruling back then, and it still is in effect now actually, is if it was destroyed in the pendulum zone, it would still get its monster effect, because when it's sent from the spell and trap zone to the extra deck, it still can count as a monster when you're using its effect like that. Kind of a really important ruling to make this card what it was, and it was insane. Like I said, you can pair this card with multiple ways to kind of trigger its effect. Luster was a way where you could just pop it and search another copy of itself and then get its effect, special summon a Damage Juggler from your deck, which then if Damage Juggler was popped, if you summoned a Pendulum Sorcerer, you could use Damage Juggler to get yourself Hat Trigger to special summon enough. There was tons of different combos you could do. You could also pop your Plush Fire with cards like Wavering Eyes. Popping your own scales with Wavering Eyes was not uncommon, as it was a way to trigger all these cards like Perform a Pow Plush Fire, as well as putting cards into the extra deck so you could use them. Guiding Ariande was another card that you'd be able to use with Luster Pendulum or Wavering Eyes to get yourself one of your trap lineup. The trap lineup was kind of flexible. You could either play no traps except for Treacherous Trap Pool to pair with your Rafflesia, and opt to play maybe 3 copies of Plush Fire and a 3rd Damage Juggler. There was options you could play with. I just liked Fraser's list the most. But some other cards that you might not recognize is Perform a Pow Monkey Board. This card was actually around for a lot longer, but this is easily, I think, one of the best pendulum cards ever released, if not the best pendulum card ever released, just for the fact where you could actually just straight up activate this card and then get an immediate search for another card to complete your scale, which would normally be you would search for a Lizard Draw, which would then get you the Lizard Draw would get you a draw at the end of your entire combo. Or what you could do is, if you didn't have a normal summon in your hand, you could search for the best normal summon in the game at the time, which was Perform a Pow Skullcrobat Joker. So you could go Monkey Board into Skullcrobat Joker, summon Skullcrobat Joker, and then get your other part of the scale, and have another free level 4 to play with. Or you could do it the other way around. If you didn't have Monkey Board, go Skullcrobat into Monkey Board into the Lizard Draw. It was just crazy, really. And then also a thing that people would end up doing is they would also pop both of their scales at the end of their combo to clear their scales for, well, clear most of their scales for their opponent's Wavering Eyes with Pendulum Sorcerer, and then search Guitar Turtle and Lizard Draw to get essentially what was called the Pot of Greed back then. You would play Guitar Turtle, play Lizard Draw, get your draw off of Guitar Turtle, and get a draw off of Lizard Draw. Insane advantage for free, really, is what it was. Lots of different ways to trigger all your cards, and they all do something. They all work in tandem together to really work towards that end board, of which was normally Infinity plus Rafflesia. And Infinity, you were able to make Infinity with this deck. You might think, oh, there's no way to make Cyber Dragon Nova to get into there. Well, there was a card called Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, and this card, essentially, just for dummies, reads literally stack a rank 5 on top of this for free. It was a rank 4 turned into a rank 5, which you would then turn into Nova, and then turn that into Infinity. And Infinity, being just released at the time, was a bonkers card, still is today, but it was easily the best card in the game pretty much at the time of its release. It was crazy. People were trying to find ways to combat it. Cards like XYZ Encore made a short comeback because your opponent wouldn't be able to get any materials since it used Ptolemaeus, so it was essentially a free bounce the Infinity back, you can't respond to it. But this card was a game changer when it was dropped. Easily the best card in the game. And then Rafflesia, of course, if you don't know what Rafflesia does, you send a trap hole from your deck to your graveyard to activate the trap hole in your opponent's turn, really. You can substitute for a trap card, which most popular choices, again, Bottomless Trap Hole, or if you didn't play a big trap lineup, you'd play Treacherous Trap Hole, which could actually pop 2 cards on the field, 2 monsters, at any point, rather than Bottomless having, of course, a trigger. Deck was just really insane too. And then of course, last card, just really point out and prove how consistent this deck was. You had a card, Draco Face Off, which is now at 1, but it was at 3 at the time. This card is also one of easily the best cards, which is Pendulum format in general. You don't know what it does. You can reveal 1 Draco Slayer, reveal 1 Draco Overlord. So you would normally just reveal Luster Pendulum, and you would reveal Vector Pendulum. And then your opponent would randomly pick one would go to the extra deck, and then the other one would be either special summoned or added to your hand. You got the option to do that. So, what would end up happening is if your opponent picked Vector, Vector would end up being special summoned most of the time rather than adding to your hand unless you needed the 3 scale. Or if your opponent picked Luster, you could add the Luster to your hand and then use Luster's effect, of course, with all those other cards we mentioned. Crazy stuff to do. Or you could just special summon the Luster, which normally wasn't the best play to do because you could pop it from your scales anyways. And this card was just super unfair. It's just not fair to get that many cards into play off of 1 card. It's not really a drawback that 1 goes to an extra deck because you're building and you're stacking up your extra deck to be able to just nut all over the board and make these powerful XYZ monsters like Infinity. And then even Evil Swarm Nightmare was a super powerful card for the fact that if my opponent Pendulum summoned their board, I could just flip it all face down and they'd be forced to pass. That's where this card actually ended up being good too. Ignister was a card at 3, but you never really played it at 3. Just a very powerful card at 2 even. Being able to spin back scales with non-targeting effects is super important. Also, a thing a lot of people didn't know is you could pop your opponent's scales too to activate its effect. So you could pop one of their scales and then shuffle something on their side of the board back. Really competitive format, but really I think it's the pinnacle of die roll because of the insane boards you could always consistently make with this deck turn 1. It was really just a, if you have it, okay, I guess I scoop, because counters are really easy to negate with cards like Cyber Dragon, Infinity, or anything. It's really easy to overwhelm your opponent. So unless, of course, you're going second and you had the sided-in sideboard here of the hand traps and stuff, if you happen to have one, then you could actually probably play the game at that point. Otherwise, you just kind of got that big baloney. Very hard to play the game, but I definitely think this is probably the most consistent deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just for the insane amount of one-of cards that had so much utility, and then also the fact that you can consistently pump out an extremely strong board. I still think one of the stronger boards ever. Just on a consistent basis. Crazy stuff, definitely very scary. Never really lost advantage in making your plays. I still think this format was absurd. My favorite format was actually the format following this was when the emergency ban list dropped, and then the game got a little bit more competitive then. You had to time your wavering eyes correctly and everything. I really like that format, but that's another topic for a different day. Let me take you guys back and we'll wrap this video up. What do you say? So hopefully this goes to show just how broken this deck was back in its day and how consistent it could be. Having cards like Performapal Monkey Board at 3, Wavering Eyes at 3, Draco Face Off at 3, Luster Pendulum at 3, Performapal Plush Fire at 3. Having all these at max was definitely a very scary thing for the format, and it was quickly adjusted as Performapal Monkey Board went swiftly to 1, as well as Plush Fire getting that axe real quick. But let me know what you guys think the most consistent Yu-Gi-Oh deck of all time is. I'm actually dying to definitely hear what you guys think. Do you think Zodiac's more consistent? I definitely bounced around with that, but hey, love to hear what you guys think.
That's all, folks.
If you guys liked the video, be sure to like the video, thumbs up the video. I want to express to you enjoyed the video. Please do consider subscribing to my channel if you like Yu-Gi-Oh content. I'm getting a huge surge of new people coming in, so I figured, hey, might as well market myself. Hell yeah. But if you're already subscribed, thank you for your continued support. I really appreciate it, and I definitely hope to see all of you guys in the next video, which will probably be tomorrow. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys next time. Nim Nim, signing out.